there's no purport here, so I'll read the next verse. Tatyan grihita kalaso panchayanu pansancharai durastan payayanasha jaramrityu haram sudam. Responsibly, Datyan, the demons. Grihita kalasa, the Lord, who bore the container of nectar. Panchayan, by cheating. Upasancharai, with sweet words. Durastan, demigods, who were sitting at a distant place. Vayayamasha, made them drink. Jaramityu haram, which can counteract invalidity. Old age and death. Sudham, such nectar. Translation, Srila Prabhupada. Taking the container of nectar in her hands, she first approached the demons, satisfied them with sweet words, and thus cheated them of their share of the nectar. Then she administered the nectar to the demigods, who were sitting at a distant place, to make them free from invalidity, old age, and death. Responsibly, taking the container of nectar in her hands, she first approached the demons, satisfied them with sweet words, and thus cheated them of their share of the nectar. Then she administered the nectar to the demigods, who were sitting at a distant place, to make them free from invalidity, old age, and death. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Mohini Murti, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, gave the demigods seats at a distance. Then she approached the demons and spoke with them very graciously, so that they thought themselves very fortunate to talk with her. Since Mohini Murti had seen the demigods at a distant place, the demons thought that the demigods would get only a little of the nectar, and that Mohini Murti was so pleased with the demons that she would give the demons all the nectar. The words Vanchayan Upasan Charai indicate that the Lord's whole policy was to cheat the demons simply by speaking sweet words. The Lord's intention was to distribute the nectar only to the demigods. Translation again by Srila Prabhupada. Taking the container of nectar in her hands, she first approached the demons, satisfied them with sweet words, and thus cheated them of their share of the nectar. Then she administered the nectar to the demigods, who were sitting at a distant place, to make them free from invalidity, old age, and death. So it may be a bit, it may seem a bit strange that the personality of Godhead has taken an unusual form and employed an act of diplomacy so that the demigods would benefit from taking the nectar in place of the demons. And another thing we've noticed in this chapter is that there are demons and demigods in kind of tug of war. And it gives the impression that the world is filled with good people and bad people, good guys and bad guys sort of thing. But maybe it's not that simple, because sometimes so-called demons can become devotees and devotees can become demons. There's a Bengali, I think it's Bengali, proverb that Prabhupada quoted once. I think Vrindavan Thakur said, Suchihaya Muchihaya Hare Krishna Bhaje, Muchihaya Suchihaya Muchihaya Hare Krishna Bhaje. And that means that if one is very difficult or born in a very low situation, or just a common person and an atheist, one can become a devotee if that person remembers Krishna and concurrently Suchihaya Yari Krishna Mani Krishna Bhaje. If one is a devotee but forgets Krishna, Tvaje, announces Krishna, then one can become a low-class demonic sort of person. So people can change, and it's kind of a popular sort of New Age philosophy that there's no such thing as bad people and good people, and everybody is good. In a way, that's kind of the Krishna conscious philosophy, because it's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita that says, Nityasura Krishna Prema Sadhya Kavanai Shravana Vishuddha Chitte Kali Yudai, that actually everyone is remembering Krishna, but they have temporarily just forgotten Krishna. So the process of Krishna consciousness, according to that verse, is to awaken the conditioned souls so that they will become devotional. So I want to do a little bit of market research here among the people from Krishna Village, but since there aren't very many Krishna Village people here, I think I'll have to forego that concept and maybe to do it next time. Well, I mean, how many are from the Krishna Village here? Oh, there's a few. So I'm going to ask you 4 questions. This is just for the Krishna Village people, or for people that aren't devotees or aspiring to become devotees very soon, within the next month or 2. I'm going to ask 4 questions. One question is do you dislike people who are people of God, or do you want to kill them or see them dead? Second is, are you an atheist? Third is, are you an agnostic? And 4th is, are you a believer in God, or do you believe in God in some form or other? And what I mean by agnostic is you don't know, in case you don't know what agnostic means. It's just the person doesn't know whether there is God or not God. So the first question is how many dislike people of God and want to see them eliminated? Okay, just raise your hand if you agree with any of these things. So there's one. Okay.
Well, I can give the answers.
Huh?
I could give the answers to the 4 questions. I disagree, of course, with the first question.
Disagree with the first question?
Well, I say no to the first question. No, I don't want to. I don't dislike people.
And then the second question is how many are atheistic? They don't think there is a God. And third, how many are agnostic? And you don't know. And the 4th is how many are believers in God in some form or other. So that's kind of an interesting show. Any other points that I haven't covered? Anyway, that's the market research. And there's sometimes people, I don't know, they're of various religious traditions, sometimes they're convicted of a crime. And they say, well, actually, I didn't do it. It was the devil that made me do it. And I didn't do it myself. It was just the outside forces. So in the Krishna conscious philosophy, there's the devil, or the tendency to perform criminal acts, is something that's also within each person. It's called the force of Maya. And sometimes it's a desire that's deeply buried within the hearts of people but doesn't manifest. Just like sometimes people become angry, but usually they're not angry, or they're in a so-called normal condition, but they become angry. It becomes manifest. Sometimes, usually it's non-manifest, but sometimes it becomes manifest. It's kind of like a cloud. There's always a bit of moisture in the air, but sometimes it becomes very condensed and becomes clouds. So clouds also, this is a simile to anger. Sometimes the water becomes manifested in the form of clouds, and usually it's not manifest. I think airplane pilots can vouch for all this. And so sometimes there's goodness and sometimes there's badness. And according to the Krishna conscious philosophy, there's goodness in every being, but it just has to be awakened. So an atheist can become a theist, and so forth and so on. There was a person that I knew, who was a devotee still, who was very successful in his life. He graduated from the University of California, of Los Angeles, which is a fairly respected university. He was going to the Olympics, and he had a lot of money in his... This happened, he was telling me this happened one Friday evening. It was a very warm night in Los Angeles, and in a section called Westwood. And he had a lot of money in his pocket. He had a beautiful girlfriend. He was going to the Olympics. He just graduated from college. He was a very attractive person and a very intelligent person. And then the devotees were, on Friday and Saturday nights, they used to go to this section called Westwood in Los Angeles and chant. And he saw a person that he was in the university with. And he saw that this person had a big smile on his face, and he thought, what is he chanting and dancing in these pink bed sheets, and how can he be happy? But he looked at him, and the other person looked at the other person, and then he realized that he was very happy, and he was actually happier than he was, even though he had a lot of good things going for him. He was a university graduate, he had a lot of money, he had a beautiful girlfriend, he was going to the Olympics. And but at that point, he realized that this person who apparently had nothing was even happier than he was. And this person became a devotee because of that. That's his story. That's his telling of this particular incident, that how it happened to him. And he's still very much a devotee. Anyway, getting back to these verses, sometimes we see that the personality of Godhead or God can be diplomatic and even lie, which we think is, not a very good thing. God doesn't tell lies if he's all good. But we tend to think of God as an old bearded person who sits on a throne and passes judgment on people, good or bad, and they either go to heaven or go to hell. But the Krishna conscious philosophy is that God is a person like we are, and has likes and dislikes, can ease and can take things, and can walk and can laugh and can cry, and can even in extreme situations tell lies. And in this instance, the Supreme Personality of God had changed his form from male to female and attracted the atheistic or demonic people very much so, and kind of enamored them to the point where they would do anything that this God asked them to do. So Krishna was sometimes he's accused of immorality, and here he was using the trick of lying. And there was a king called King Yudhisthira, who was very, very pious and very religious king, who never in his life told a lie, because lying is very inconsistent with the Krishna conscious philosophy. But there was a war, a battle, internecine warfare between. It all happened within one family. I think you all know this. But he asked Yudhisthira to tell a lie, to say that Asvatthama was dead. Asvatthama was the son of Dronacharya. And Dronacharya would not be defeated unless he was demoralized by thinking his son was dead. So in this very extreme instance, the personality of Godhead, Krishna, asked Yudhisthira to tell a lie. And Yudhisthira was kind of appalled, and he thought, tell a lie? I've never lied in my life, how can I do this? And he hesitated, and because he hesitated, he went ahead and did it, but he hesitated. And because of his hesitation, he had to see the hellish conditions of life. And in another instance, the Lord asked, when there was a fight, when there was a club battle between the good and the bad, between Bhima and Drona and Duryodhana, or Dronacharya, Duryodhana. It was becoming a tie. No one was going to win, because Duryodhana was very quick and he'd learned how to fight with a club and be very quick, and Bhima was very, very strong. Whatever he did, whatever motion he undertook was backed by great strength. So it was going to be a tie, but Krishna wanted Bhima to win because he was a friend of his. As I was saying, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has friends, and can do a lot of things that human beings can do. He asked him to strike Duryodhana below the belt, which is kind of like, it's almost a lie, but it's like a violation of Kshatriya principles, of warrior principles. Just like in prize fighting, it's somewhat illegal to hit a person below the belt. But he did this. He on occasion did this, and in another instance he asked another one of his very dear friends, Karna, who was a great warrior, to engage in battle, even though he was knocked off his chariot and was dethroned. Anyway, Krishna sometimes does these things, and so the Krishna conscious conception of God is unique. It's different, and only people who are really devoted to God or to Krishna or Vaishnavism really accept this form of God. But generally, the Krishna conscious people are people who don't tell lies. They're people who follow the rules and regulations, even of the governments in existence today, that aren't always the right things. And sometimes people use these exceptional instances as excuses to engage in what the secular world calls clergy abuse. That is, if you're a priest or a monk or a sannyasi, that you can do anything. It's all lila and that sort of thing. But that's not actually the case. These are exceptional instances in which God makes exceptions. We tend to think that the world is run by, well, it's true, the world is run by laws. They're not always right. But there's another law, though, the law of God, which is superior to the laws of the human beings. And but not everything runs exactly according to the laws. But Krishna, being the maker, is able to break the laws. Just as when policemen sometimes have to break the law to catch a speeder, they have to go faster than the speed limit in their car to catch someone else who is violating the speed limit. So sometimes God has to break the rules of the universe in order to set things right. This does happen on occasion. So these are some of the things that happen. I was going to mention that, I don't know, last time I started to tell about an incident, I didn't finish it. It happened in 1966 in June or July, when some Indian people who were born in India were merchant marine captains and their wives, captain and first mate and their wives. There were about 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of them. They were strolling down 2nd Avenue, and they happened to look into the shopfront that had become a temple. And they were very amazed, so they decided to walk in, because it looked just like their homeland. And they came in and sat on the floor, which also was unusual for people of that age. They were over 40 years old. And Prabhupada saw them come in, and realizing that they were people from his country, asked them to recite some verses from the Bhagavad Gita, which they knew. And at that point I realized that Krishna consciousness was more than just a Swami on the Lower East Side. It was part of a whole national belief system of Hinduism. So anyway, I wanted to relate what the rest of that story was, which I didn't finish. Anyway, we're getting towards the end. So if you have anything to ask or anything to say, please write it down if you're not able to remember it, and so that we can ask. But this is an instance, and it goes on to quite an extent in this chapter, about how Krishna changes his form and deludes people who are mad after this form of Krishna. And it's interesting to note that people who are in this atheistic and it's called demonic form of life, are so enamored and so charmed by Krishna's female form that they would do anything that she asked, to the point of foregoing drinking the elixir of immortality, the nectar brought forth on this planet by Dhanvantari. And as we'll read later on, because of her very cunning and very, very clever ways, the demigods were ultimately victorious and ultimately drank the nectar. And there's always, even in the higher planetary systems, there's conflicts between the good and between good and evil. Here, the people that are called demons, or the atheistic or the sinful people, are the bad guys, and Krishna always tends to favor the good guys, so to speak. And in the end, they were victorious, because even though they were patient and waited, and even though some of the demonic people tried to outsmart the personality of Godhead by disguising him. There was one bad guy, atheist, who sat amongst and disguised himself and sat amongst the demigods, Rahu, and started to drink the nectar. But Krishna realized that this was a fraudulent endeavor, and cut the person's head off. So this person became immortalized, and from the neck on up, and from the neck on down, passed away or died. So are there any comments or questions or on anything that I've talked about? Anything?
In terms of breaking laws, breaking God laws, then you have hopefully you have lamentation afterwards. However, the Bhagavad Gita states, in the Brahma Buddha stage, that it's no substitute akanshati. There's no hankering, there's no lamentation. It's sometimes as devotees we look back at our lives and we've done some bad misdeeds, and so there's lamentation there. So how do we reconcile that? Because that can be encouraged.
Well, on the one hand, we've heard Prabhupada say that we should always remember our past sinful activities. But on the other hand, he's told us that Krishna consciousness is actually a system of recreation. And there's a verse that says, Raja Goyam Raja Vijaya Raja Goyam Pavitramitam Uttamam Susukyam. Pratyaksha. Susukyam means happiness or joyfulness. So even though the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada recommends that we should always remember our past sinful activities, in most other places he says that we should not dwell on those to the point of becoming constantly depressed. We should remember, but not always be, because Krishna consciousness is actually, what he said was a system of recreation. And even though there are certain prohibitions that we have to follow, it's actually a system of recreation. It's joyfully performed. Susukha means joyfully performed. You had a question?
As you talk about good guys, bad guys,
Mm-hmm.
is there any standard of absolute good and bad, or is it?
There is a standard, I think. His question was that when I was talking about good guys and bad guys, is there a standard? There is a standard of what's good and what's evil. I mean, when people murder, for example, that's a standard. We think that's bad. And when people make other people happy, we think that's good. It might be a baby, it might be an adult, but we think that's good. So there are standards of good and bad. But at the same time, a person who is violently bad can be made into a person who's good by the chanting of the Mahamantra, Muchihaya, Suchihaya, Yadi Krishna Vaji. That's become an aphorism by Vrindavan Das Thakur, that if one remembers Krishna, one can become elevated to the highest platform of life. So it's possible to change from one thing to another. Even though there are standards of good and evil, one can change from good to evil and from evil to good.